Have you ever wondered how our everyday lives are tied to our financial well-being? Well, today we'll get some groundbreaking insights into this dynamic relationship. Our next two guests keep their ears to the ground with a podcast and a recent study, both aimed at unraveling the ways people engage with their wealth. Let's welcome Jean Chatzky, the host of Everyday Wealth, and Jason Vandeleu of Edelman Financial Engines. Welcome, Jean and Jason.
Thanks for having us.
Happy to have you on. So, Jean, I wanted to start off with you. Could you share the latest highlights from this year's Everyday Wealth in America study?
Yeah, so we dug into the intersection of your life and your money with a real focus on areas that we know have been troublesome for people this year. We took a look at home buying and credit card debt and the impact of money on our relationships, and the results were really telling.
And Jason, what are some of the highlights from the study this year?
Well, one of our first takeaways was that very few Americans actually consider themselves wealthy. Only 14% of those we surveyed told us they feel wealthy. And what was remarkable was that 67% told us they would need $1 million in the bank to feel wealthy. Last year, that number was just 57%. So with everything that's happening in the stock market, with inflation, with interest rates, it's just getting a lot harder to build wealth and to feel financially secure.
Yeah, we're seeing that increase. And Jean, can you talk about the current challenges people are facing when they're trying to buy a home right now?
Yeah, there is a laundry list of challenges. Unfortunately, interest rates, inflation, a very slim supply of homes on the market. And we saw the impact of all of those things in the results of our study. We saw nearly half of people say that they've gotten discouraged from even trying to buy a home. And about a third of people told us that they feel like the window of opportunity to make a purchase has just closed for them.
And Jason, can you tell us about the financial roller coaster of credit card debt? What should people be aware of?
Well, unfortunately, the burden of credit card debt is even heavier now than it has ever been. As a nation, we have more than $1 trillion of credit card debt. And we found in our study that Americans said credit card debt is actually the single biggest threat in their ability to build wealth. And as those interest rates increase, it's going to take years for Americans to pay that debt off, and that's what stands in the way, as Jean referenced, of making that down payment, buying that home, and building a strong financial foundation.
Yeah, it can be very overwhelming. And Jean, did the study reveal any surprising ways money affects our personal relationships?
Two specifically. Number one, we looked at what the impact is of finances on divorce, and 62% of people who've actually gone through a divorce told us their finances undoubtedly played a role. More surprising, though, was I think the impact of social media on our spending and on the debt that we're accruing. We looked at people who are spending more than 3 hours a day on social media, which is more people than you might think, and they tell us they are making purchases that they absolutely cannot afford. And to Jason's point about the credit card debt, you put all of these pieces together, and it's a puzzle that becomes even more difficult to unwind.
Yeah, especially spending so much time on social media. There's so many ads that are going on that are encouraging to purchase things that maybe you don't really need, but just want. Jason, how can people put these insights to good use?
Well, I think the first thing to do is just have a conversation. We need to learn to have healthier conversations about money. And the good news in our study was we found that getting help helps. 76% of those who are working with a financial advisor say they stress less about their money, but only 37% of those in the survey have taken that step. So we'd encourage you to have that conversation with a financial advisor. You can check us out at everydaywealth.com. You'll find our podcasts where Jean talks with our financial planners every week, gives you a chance to connect with one of our planners and just have that first conversation toward feeling financially safe and secure.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned just having that first conversation, because kind of keeping it all to yourself, it can get really overwhelming and daunting, but finding those solutions and steps to hopefully help you move forward in the right direction, it's helpful. Thank you so much for joining us, the both of you. I'm going to let our viewers know where they can go for more information. You can find out more by going to everydaywealth.com.